of women don't know this. It's like, oh my gosh, what, great. And then of course you would tell them once, like further on down on the page. So specificity works really well in content marketing. You guys would recognize my specificity in a lot of my YouTube videos, like learn the 5 things, the 5 tips. And it's because people love learning in frameworks. It's just how our brains work. I remember one time in a video, I said the 6 tips. I think it was in my 6 tips to work from home video. And I think last minute I decided to take one out, but I forgot to change the 6 tips to 5. Oh man, people were not happy with me. I went like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 or something. So really there was only 5, and people were like, where's the other tip? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But people love learning in frameworks. And so this works really, really well. Of course, you can use this if you are in fact educating people on your sales page about the 3 things, the 2 things, the 5 things. If you're not, then you might want to use specificity in a different way, like in the stats example that I shared with you. Like if you're using any sort of scientific research or pulling any sort of stats in your copy, that could be a really good open loop. Like, 24.3% of business owners make this mistake, something like that. As long as you're sharing it in your page. And that's the most important thing, is you're opening a loop in your headline to get them to keep reading your page. And then hopefully by the time they get to that stat, you've closed that loop, but you've already hooked them in because you've gotten them to start scrolling and reading your indoctrination, right? So that's how you use specificity. Kane says, what happens next will shock you. Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about that. Preview. A preview is when you're like hinting at what's to come. It's like foreshadowing. So this works well in videos. Like in only 30 seconds, this video will teach you how to save a life, but not how you'd expect. You can say, you can give a preview and say, in just a moment, you're going to discover the #1 secret to, or you're going to realize the #1 thing that's been missing from your life, or something like that. It's like previewing. It's telling them that something's coming, right? Really simple to do. Makes people want to keep going and go, yeah, okay, I want to figure that out, right? Cliffhanger. This is one that was written for numerologist.com, which is actually a client of mine. I didn't write this. The founder wrote it, and I thought it was so good. It's based on a really common ad from back in the day. I forget what it is now. I wish I could remember. But it started with, they laughed when I. And so you're saying they laughed when I mentioned this free video. That does such a good job of making people be like, what? Who laughed? Why did they laugh? It makes you want to read more and actually go watch the video to figure out what people are laughing about. Charlie put his glass down, tears rolling down his face. It connects, and then it goes into more of like the education bit. But just that one starting line, they laughed when I mentioned this free video, but then when it started to play, ... Like what a cliffhanger, right? So really good example of a cliffhanger there. Takaya says, I've got to go a bit early, but I'll watch the rest later. Bye, girl. Thanks for being here. Okay, and then the next one is a rhetorical question, which is probably the simplest one, but it can still be incredibly powerful, right? So asking a question that the answer is yes. I opened my Write and Ignite sales page with like, are you this? Who needs this? Are you this? It's like, yes, you want people to sub-vocalize in their heads, yes. Don't ask a question where they're sub-vocalizing, no. Because the whole point is that you're getting them to agree and subconsciously be like, yeah, totally, right? So here's one from Instacart. They have a bunch of ads that are all just rhetorical question open loops. Want a hassle-free way to get your groceries? Yeah, I do. Want a convenient way to shop for groceries? Want to skip the lines at the grocery store? So just really great examples of rhetorical questions used as open loops, okay? So then the last concept, step 2 is to write out possible headlines using at least one of these open loops. You can do all of them, but you probably have you'll have a preference as which one you think will work best for you, right? So if you want to do all, go ahead and write, again, just some one-liners, like either questions, cliffhangers, or use specificity, any of those open loops, or write out a few of those types of headlines. Okay, and then the third thing we want our headlines to do is to call out the target audience. Now, I say indirectly here. When I teach this in the Launchpad, I talk about how to do it directly versus indirectly. Directly works really well for ads because in ads, you can target people. So you can write an ad saying, are you a woman over 50? And know you're targeting women over 50. Or the store for entrepreneurs, and then target entrepreneurs. You can, if your product is for parents, is for entrepreneurs, you can absolutely do that in your headline. But if it's for, if your customer, like I'm going to go to Jolene's example about Cacao Bliss, because you asked about kind of how do I speak to different genders. If your product truly isn't just for women over 50 or entrepreneurs, which it isn't, it's a cacao drink. You don't want to call out the target audience in your headline that directly because you're going to alienate, right? If you were running ads that you knew you were just targeting those specific people, then of course you could, right? So in your case, you want to go more indirect, which is calling out your audience by speaking to a pain that you know they have or speaking to a benefit you know they have. So it's more indirect. And this is an example that that's a good example of directly calling out the audience, because like they use specificity too, right? Just as a fun like aside. But a good way to call out the audience indirectly is to just make sure you're getting really clear on their pain point, because of course, if you're correctly identifying their pain, you are in fact speaking to them. So this whole example of target audience, it isn't like it needs to be its own line or anything in the headline set. You just want to make sure that you are in fact speaking to your target audience, because of course it's important, right? And so that can happen in any part of your headline, and it can also just be done by really clearly identifying a specific pain point that your audience has. And of course, using the word you. Try to use the word you or your in your headline. It's like marketing 101. Don't ever start a headline with, like, I'm going to go back to Israel's example. Turn your dreams or translate your dreams into reality. Perfect. If you said, we translate dreams into reality, or we are a translation company, it's like, no, you're not making it about your reader. Make it about them. Do not ever, I try to, as much as possible, remove the we language, especially in like the headlines and the indoctrination. I wait until the pivot, right, where it's, okay, now I can start talking about myself and my business because I've made it clear that we're talking about you. That's so important, you guys. So here is step 3 of your workbook, is to just identify, this is just sort of a little bit redundant, but identify your target audience. You've already done that. It's just nice to remind yourself. And try to describe them in a way that makes them a little bit more relatable, like stressed out professionals, busy millennials, like just make it a little bit more like into their pain point of what it is they're trying to help them with, okay? So once you've done that, then you can actually start writing out possible headline sets. So let's quickly revisit the line, hook, and stinger framework. So remember, this is in your sales page formula document. But the line is a pre-headline. The hook is that main hook, right? The main idea using pain, either benefit, pain, or mechanism. Use one of those 3 hooks. And then the stinger is a sub-headline that I really like to use is for either one of 2 things, either to open a loop to get them to keep reading, or as a call to action to buy. Now, a call to action is good when you're using it for a page where people are already aware of the solution and they want it. If they aren't already aware of the solution, you might want to just make that 3rd headline more of a invitation for them to keep reading. So that's up to you. Again, there's not one way that's worse than the other. I personally, because most of my sales pages, I'm speaking to people who are solution aware and know that I teach copywriting and know that I have a copywriting program. So I tend to make my 3rd headline a button or a call to action. I'll show you guys what my Write and Ignite sales page looks like in a document so you can see that. But here, a line is the prefix or headline, and this can be where you use a rhetorical question or a relevant statement or an engaging teaser that calls out the audience, right? The hook is that main headline that communicates the benefit, the pain, the emotion, or the mechanism, like I talked about. And then the stinger is kind of like the wild card, right? You can say, order now, or contact us for a free consultation, or contact us for a free quote within 15 minutes. right? That would be a great stinger or call to action. It can also be, you know, like an invitation to keep reading, which can be a lead into your indoctrination, right? Like hint at what's to come. Like, you know, the story you're about to hear will change the way you think about this, or let me share you a stat that will blow your mind, or something like that that gets them to keep reading, opens that loop, right? So I like to loosely follow this formula. You'll see different headlines that have like the main biggest headline first, which is fine. I feel like homepages do that more often, where they have like the big hook headline first, then a sub headline, and then a call to action. So use this as a guide. You guys don't use this as like, oh my gosh, I have to have a pre headline. You don't. This is just what I tend to follow. Think strategically about what you include here, because another big mistake that I see people make in their headlines is every line, let's say we're using the benefit hook, every line is a benefit said in a different way. So I did a headline critique on my Instagram, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. And what I mean by saying a benefit 3 different ways is like, this program will change your life. Unlock your true potential. Discover your purpose with blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, you said the same thing 3 times, right? So you change your potential, discover. Those are just 3 different benefits that you're just cramming into the headline. So you want to think of the headline as being prime real estate, right? You want it to answer all of those big questions, which is why I like to kind of have the one hook that you're using as either pain, benefit, or mechanism. You're calling out the target audience and you're addressing what it is that they need to know about the being on the page to get them to keep reading. So you want to think strategically about this, and don't just say the benefit 3 different ways, right? Use one really powerful benefit. A formula that I like to follow is ask a rhetorical question that calls out the target audience's core pain point. Like, are you experiencing blah, blah, blah? Are you stressed out from blah, blah, blah? That's like a really common way to start a sales page. Then I have the big hook, which is like, could be benefit driven. Like, so are you stressed out? Like you don't know how to start your copywriting business? You know, learn the high converting sales page techniques and ignite your copywriting business in 2021. Like, right? So it's like pain, benefits. I'm kind of using both. So that's just, again, just a really simple framework that I hope you guys find helpful. I want you to have fun with this though, right? Like go look at some competitor websites, go see what other people are doing and be like, how can I do this better? An example of some not great headline. I did a headline critique on my Instagram maybe a week ago. And I liked their main hook, fit learning into your life. I'm like, oh, okay, learn more. Okay. But then their subheadline, Blinkist brings you knowledge from top nonfiction and podcasts so you can learn anytime, anywhere. Immediately, I was like, Blinkist, redundant. You're making it about you. And it says that in the logo. Next, if I want knowledge from nonfiction and podcasts, why don't I just listen to podcasts and read nonfiction? I actually had to look up what they do. And now I realize that they share like Coles Notes, key takeaways, like the short version, but I actually didn't know that. So they completely missed kind of sharing what it is that is the core benefit. Yes, fit learning into your life, but like I already fit learning into my life. I listen to podcasts and Audible all the time. But if they made it more clear that the benefit was like bite-sized wisdom so that you can learn faster, get smarter faster, then I might be a little bit more interested. And if you want to see my full critique, I posted this on my Instagram. You can go check it. Some an example, but I really I'm going to share what the Write and Ignite sales page kind of look like. I think it's fun to share it as an example because you guys all saw it live because you purchased. But what this looks like really in a Google Doc. right? So I didn't really follow the line, hook, and stinger here headline format because I was writing to a more solution-aware audience. So the point of this is really just to show you guys formatting. I am big on like sizing headlines on the way that you actually see them on a page. If you're doing the 3 sets, the line, hook, and stinger, the pre-headline, make it small, like 12 points. Make the main hook like 16 or 20 point, and then make the subheadline like 14 point. So it's kind of going like an H3, an H1, and an H2 if we're talking in like headline text. And I like to center, right? Writers, we're not as your clients and your web designers when they do take your copy and turn it into a website. If you are a what's up, everybody? It is Dave. Is the prefix or headline, and this can be where you use a rhetorical question or a relevant statement or an engaging teaser that calls out the audience, right? The hook is that main headline that communicates the benefit, the pain, the emotion, or the mechanism, like I talked about. And then the stinger is kind of like the wild card, right? You can say, order now, or contact us for a free consultation, or contact us for a free quote within 15 minutes, right? That would be a great stinger or call to action. It can also be, you know, like an invitation to keep reading, which can be a lead into your indoctrination, right? Like hint at what's to come. Like, the story you're about to hear will change the way you think about this, or let me share you a stat that will blow your mind, or something like that that gets them to keep reading, opens that loop, right? So I like to loosely follow this formula. You'll see different headlines that have like the main biggest headline first, which is fine. I feel like homepages do that more often, where they have like the big hook headline first, then a sub headline, then a call to action. So use this as a guide. You guys don't use this as like, oh my gosh, I have to have a pre-headline. You don't. This is just what I tend to follow in a lot of my sales pages. So you really want to think strategically about what you include here, because another big mistake that I see people make in their headlines is every line. Let's say we're using the benefit hook. Every line is a benefit said in a different way. So I did a headline critique on my Instagram, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. The pre-headline, make it small, like 12 point. Make the main hook like 16 or 20 point, and then make the sub-headline like 14 point. So it's kind of going like and I like to center them, right? I'm also a really big fan of these horizontal lines that you can just insert horizontal line. We're designers by any means, but I feel it's really helpful to show your clients and your web designers when they do take your copy and turn it into a website, if you are a business owner, as much guidance that you can provide, like they're gonna love you for it, right? So big fan of the horizontal lines. All buttons I put in square brackets. That's just something I do. I don't know if other people do it, but I think, you know, once you start following that framework, I think it just works. Bolding, I love to add bolding and italics. I think that anytime that there's a word that you want to emphasize or anything that's really important to stand out, I love using all caps, but don't overdo it, because no one wants to feel like they're being yelled at. So you can see here, I'll teach you the exact, right? Because when I read it out loud, that word was the word that like I emphasized naturally. And that's one of the first tips I'll give you guys once we go through some of the formatting, or sorry, some of the my copy gloss checklist. Read it out loud. It'll become really clear what needs to be bolded, right? More horizontal lines. This is what we call a section opener. I'll talk about that in a second, which is sort of like a subheadline that opens up a section, right? And it just makes it really easy and skimmable if someone were to read down the page, right? So you have the 5-day breakdown, button, square brackets, you know, another section opener, more bolding. You can notice, guys, right? Like there's barely any lines that are over 3 lines. Like this one is, but it's just one word. Walls of text are no fun to read, right? So most of my lines are broken up into 2-liners and 1-liners. More section breaks here with the lines, another button here. I like to format testimonials like this, where I put like a little tiny like headline, the quote, right? And then I like to link to the image. It just helps what my web designer out, because then I can go, hey, there's a photo of Michael. So that's just personally what I do. Obviously, if you're writing for a client, that's not your job to get their images. But if you have them, go for it. It's just an extra added thing that is going to save your client time, right? If they can then just go pass this right on to a web designer. Love bullets, right? Bullets, bolding, italics. I love, order section. I always like to put in a box. So if you go like insert table and then just do the 1-1, that's how you make a box there. And that just like shows, okay, this is a call to action order box button. Anytime I'm adding in icons or images, I'll just say it, like lock icon, insert credit card images. FAQs are formatted pretty simply, similar to testimonials here. But I just wanted to show you what my pages look like, so that as you're starting to go through and format, you can borrow my formatting tips and use that as the way that you format your sales page. Okay, I'm going to share my slides again here, and I'm going to go take you through my copy glossy checklist. I like it because it rhymes with copy posse. We were talking about rhyming yesterday, of like, is it okay to rhyme? Yeah, sometimes, but really this is like my copy gloss checklist. So this is the final steps that I take all of my sales pages through as I go through the my pages. Okay, so read out loud. I said that already. This is so important, you guys, but cadence is something that's really hard to notice when you are reading it, especially if you're reading something that you wrote. It's so funny. I make a lot of typos, not because I don't know how to spell, but because I type so fast. And then people are like, you need to proofread. Here's typos. And I'm like, I did proofread it like 8 times. The problem is I wrote it and it's so hard to catch your own stuff. Reading it out loud really helps. Better yet, go ask your like friend or boyfriend or girlfriend or partner or whatever to read your sales page out loud to you. You will notice so darn quick when there's something that isn't making sense or flowing off the tongue. Because remember, people read, at least 80% of people read, unless they're speed readers, sub-vocalize. So if people are getting hung up by reading your stuff out loud, you know that people reading it are getting hung up too, right? So read it out loud, start to finish, or get someone else to read it out loud to you over the phone even. You can be like, hey, I sent you a document. I want you to read it out loud. That'll make it really clear where you need to tighten things up. Step 2, add transitions and coherence markers. I'll talk about coherence markers in a second. Transitions, you guys probably noticed on my page, I'm a huge fan of the ... And it's not because I'm trying to like be sneaky or whatever, but if you have a really long sentence that is just a long sentence and it doesn't really make sense for it to be broken into 2, you can still break it into 2, but then just put a ... at the end of the first part. And that just makes it easier to read. The other thing is removing redundancies. So with every sentence, ask yourself, is this redundant? Is it necessary? Does this create the need for someone to read the next sentence? If I'm just saying the same thing 5 different ways, you want to be careful not to do that and remove any redundancies. Okay? I just heard a noise and now I'm scared. Oh my gosh, my dog's in here. You guys, that terrified me. Hi, baby, you're home. Okay. I was having a moment. I was like, somebody's in the house. Hi, babe. Must be home. Okay. Oh my God, you guys, my heart is beating so fast right now. Hi. Are you coming to say hello? Yes. Hi. You're a good girl. So funny. Okay. Oh, literally, I was like freaking out. Okay. Shorten wordy and verbose sentences. You don't want your sentences to be super long-winded. I'm going to talk about Hemingway app at the end of this, my favorite tool in the entire world. The other thing is use active voice. Hemingway Editor will help you with
Head towards Brown Street, Curry Road. Head towards Greenfield Place. In 200 meters, turn left onto Maxwell Parade. Turn left onto Maxwell Parade. In 500 meters, turn right onto Parney Place. turn right onto Pani Place. Continue for 800 meters. In 300 meters, turn left onto Rangers Retreat Road. Turn left onto Rangers Retreat Road. In 400 meters, turn left onto Fitzpatrick Avenue East. Head towards Fitzpatrick Avenue East, then turn left onto Fitzpatrick Avenue East. In 600 meters, merge onto Warringah Road, A38.
As well. So it identifies passive voice, which is like the difference of saying, I can help you versus you can be helped by me. It's just like a more wordy way of saying something instead of saying it directly, but it's more non-confrontational, and a lot of people conversationally speak in passive voice. So Hemingway Editor will really help you with that. Break up long paragraphs and walls of text. I talked about that. Make sure none of the lines are longer than 3 lines on a Google Doc 12-point font. Add bolding. Talked about that. Love a good bold. Okay, cool. My heart's coming down a little bit now. So here are coherence markers. I am a big fan of coherence markers.
Continue on A38 for 1.5 kilometers.
Back to John Z's question of like, I feel like I was starting every sentence with I. Obviously, you don't want to do that because you want to make it about the reader as much as possible. But sometimes just adding in these little coherence markers, this improves cognitive fluency. It's like scientifically proven. You can research it. Here's a list of really common coherence markers that you guys will see me use in my copy all the time. The thing is, but truthfully, right now, but here's the thing, and here's why. For example, but surprisingly, although, in other words, in short, listen, you see, right? We don't often talk like that in real life, but those can really help guide someone through your copy rather than using the real like staccato period, like short sentences with just full stops. Short sentence, full stop. Short sentence, full stop. It doesn't carry people through. You want to keep them wanting to continue reading. So it's like little micro open loops that you're doing when you add coherence markers. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do is add section openers. And so section openers are essentially mini like sub headlines that show up throughout your page, right? So right now your sales page might be like this rough draft, and you might actually have like, you know, headline, indoctrination, discovery, all of that. Those aren't your section openers. You're going to remove those. And you're going to include section openers, which really are just mini headlines that give your reader the overall vibe of what you're about to say. So that if someone were to read the page from top to bottom and only read the subheadlines throughout the page, they would have a general pretty good idea of what it is that you're saying, right? So here's my quick breakdown, because I actually thought this would be helpful for you guys. It wasn't something I added this last minute. You don't want to have a section opener for every single section in your formula. And the reason for that is a lot of these things are like 1 to 2 sentences, right? So you're not going to have a headline that has like then one sentence underneath and then another headline. So here's how I would do the different sections, and you can see what I would merge together into its own section. So the headlines obviously are their own thing with then a line break. Indoctrination, I would definitely have as its own section. Unless it's short and it's only a few lines, then you can merge it into the solution, discovery, and pivot. If your indoctrination is quite long, then I would break the solution into its own section and put a little section opener, which is, you know, the secret to is, or something like that, right? Just introducing the discovery. And then in that section, I would include the discovery and the pivot. Then I would introduce the product, which is really just like your product name, and then have the USP kind of high level description of it and the offer. Then I would have the Juicy Benny section, which is a really simple, like, here's what you're going to learn, here's what you're going to discover, here's what you're going to get. Then have a promotion section, which includes the value, the regular price, the promotion, and the reason why. And that section can just be like, order today and you'll get, you know, again, or order today and get 55% off, whatever, right? Have your bonuses in their own section. Plus, you'll also receive these 5 bonuses, right? Just high level. And then the scarcity section can be scarcity, risk reversal, and next steps. If you don't have scarcity, then just make it risk reversal and next steps, which can very much be order below and order below to get instant access, or order now before, you know, and include the date to get instant access. So that kind of I would merge together in one section. And then of course you have the call to action. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys just to kind of see what sections I would merge together. And each one is like really high level. Don't worry about it being super fancy. I think sometimes people try to make those sub headlines like really cute, and it doesn't have to be, because the whole point is if I'm reading it from top to bottom, I'm like hooked with the headlines. The indoctrination section opener can really lead with like a something that really speaks to the pain of where they're at. Then the solution of like, here's the discovery, or here's the secret that will help you, into product, into here's what you're going to get, here's into why you should act now, here's into bonuses. Like, so it's very, very left brain to help with skimmability on the page. Okay. So that's really, really important. And then lastly, or no, maybe step 4, proofread. Proofread. Check for spelling and grammar. I love Grammarly. It really helps because, again, like I said, I do proofread, and sometimes my mind is just skipping over things because I've read it 19 million times. Grammarly helps for that. Good little tool. You can get it for free in your Chrome browser. Step 5, check it on mobile. Again, I mentioned this, right? Google Drive has a mobile app. I like to text it to yourself from your computer, or email it to yourself, and then open it on your phone and just see how it looks. Because there's one thing for it to be a wall of text on a computer. It's another thing for it to be a wall of text on your mobile device. 80%, at least 80% of web traffic is reading your page on mobile, at least. So make sure that if there's any walls of text, like literally top to bottom of your screen where there's no breaks, that's a good indicator of where that needs to be broken up, right? Hemingway editor, hemingwayapp.com. It is free. copy your entire, once you're done all the steps, copy it into Hemingway Editor. You should aim for a grade 7 level. That is the average reading level in America. Pretty much worldwide, it's not much higher than that. So make sure you are checking. So I put the Write and Ignite. I actually didn't do this when we wrote the Write and Ignite sales page. I was really happy to see that it was written at a 7th grade level, or else I would have been like, oh, darn it, maybe I would have had more people. So yeah, run it through. This is my best friend, this app. I freaking love it. You can see it also picks out sentences that are a little hard to read, sentences that are very hard to read, red sentences, and then the green is active versus passive voice. So it'll actually it'll turn green or blue, or sorry, it'll turn purple. Phrases have simpler alternatives. Anything that, like, everyone always wants to use fancy words. Sometimes Hemingway Editor is like too fancy. Nope. Like, why use the word amalgamate when you can just say mix, right? So simpler is really better in a lot of ways. And so you guys, your homework for today is to open up your Google Doc, insert your favorite headline sets, right? So you're gonna really brainstorm a lot of hooks. You're gonna brainstorm a lot of open loops. You're gonna write some headline sets. Take your favorite set, pop it on over into your Google Doc, and then go over the formatting tips that I shared with you and your copy gloss checklist. Your day 5 action is to share your headline set in the Facebook group and or your Hemingway Editor score, which I just think is so fun because it's colorful and you can see grade 7. And I'm sure some of you geniuses will be like, oh no, mine's at a grade 12 level, and you're really gonna have to like tone it down a notch. And yeah, so that is your homework for the day. Super, super fun. This is just an off topic. John Z says, Mike, Hemingway app says my copy is grade 3. I think that's fine. Sometimes, remember, Hemingway app is sort of, it goes based on sentence length too. So maybe it could be like part of your sentence structure. I'd say, like, if you feel like it needs to be smarter, go for it. It's fine. You guys, this isn't goodbye. This isn't goodbye, even though it's day 5, because we are going to see you tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye.